Welcome to episode 11 of the TM GolfCast. And in this episode, we sat down with Ryan Smith. He is the number one player on the men's Cal U golf team. He is also a PGM student at Cal U. And we got to sit down and talk about how his internships have gone, where he's looking to go, how he got started in the game, and everything in between. I do apologize. The audio is not the best. I'm working on getting some mics, but for some reason the microphone didn't want to work. But thankfully, we actually recorded this on a Facebook Live. And so going forward, actually, we're going to be trying to do a lot more Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives during the interviews. So this is actually a video. This is our video from what we did when we recorded this. So take a watch. And actually, if you're watching on YouTube, I guess take a watch. But if you're on the other listening platforms, this is my conversation with Ryan Smith.
I am here with the 11th guest of our TM GolfCast, Mr. Ryan Smith. How you doing, man?
All right, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. We've known each other for a year now, I think, a little bit longer. And one of the biggest things that I see that you impress me the most is because you're one of the best players on our Cal men's golf team.
Thank
You're
you.
one of the best, and your academics are through the roof. Like, it's crazy.
Thank you.
You just won an award, actually, for your academics. What was that?
Correct. That was the PSAC Men's Scholar Athlete of the Year award that goes to the highest GPA, who is at least a junior in their class standing.
Okay. That's remarkable. With me, I can never get my grades that high. I work so hard. This doesn't work. Now, since you're one of the best players on our golf team, how do you prepare for a tournament? If you're going into the weekend knowing you have a more of a difficult kind of course coming up, how do you prepare physically, mentally, equipment-wise? How do you prepare for that?
So first things first is during the practice round. Generally, I like to throw a lot of balls around the greens and chip from a lot of different areas, and then figure out where my misses are going to be. So I sort of scout out the golf course in that way first, because I think generally the short game for me is most important. If my short game is efficient, I'll generally score a lot better than when it's not, obviously. And then I generally, for the entire golf team, we try to pick good target lines off the tees and figure out which clubs we're going to hit before the round even starts. So, short par 4, am I going to go hit driver, or am I going to hit iron and lay up to a wedge yardage? Something like that. And then, preparation going into it before we even leave for the trip, I generally make sure all facets of my game are where I want them to be. So if I realize a couple days before the tournament that my wedge game isn't quite where I want it to be, I'll hit a couple extra wedges in the simulator to try to dial in some yardages and things like that.
Yeah.
Equipment wise, I don't really change very much too often, so that remains relatively the same. But yeah, that's what I do to prepare.
That's awesome. I mean, I see you as probably a future PGA Tour winner. When I see you practicing and I see the distances you're hitting and the scores you're producing, it's like, wow, that guy is like, I could see you winning a PGA Tour tournament someday. There's a few players here at Cal that I can see that happening.
I don't know about that, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, when you came into the golf industry, you worked at Kings Mill this summer.
Correct.
Let's circle back. So when you first started in the golf industry, when you first kind of learned of the game of golf, and then kind of come back to now.
Okay. So you're talking about my first job, or
just how you
golf?
Evolved in the game of golf.
Okay. So growing up, my parents never played golf. Actually, really nobody in my family, or my immediate family at least, played golf.
Really? I didn't know that about you.
No.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know. We'd share a common connection here.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So I grew up playing baseball and ice hockey, and then when I got into, I guess it's probably around the 5th or 6th grade, I saw Tiger win the U.S. Open on one leg, and I was like, that's really cool. I'd really like to give that a shot. So I told my dad that I was going to give golf a try. So I saved up a little bit of money and bought my first set of junior set. It was probably like 5 or 6 clubs in it. A Wilson set, I remember being orange, and just went to the driving range a couple of times, and I really liked it. So my father's best friend growing up, and probably still one of his best friends, he played a little bit at the time. He doesn't play much anymore, but he usually went out almost once a week. So one weekend he took me out to a little 9-hole course just in our area, and I just loved it. So from then on, probably starting around when I went into high school, 8th grade to 9th grade there, I got a lot more serious about it and decided to play in high school. And it just, my passion grew from there. I'd always loved baseball, but it sort of got away from that a little bit, and that's why I'm here, because I just love to play the game. So, yeah, that's my story.
Now, when you found out, when you were trying to pick a career to go in, how did you pick the golf industry? Did you think, at what point did you realize, I think I can turn my love of the game into a profession?
Well, to be honest with you, when I got out of high school, or as I was nearing the end of my high school career, sort of the end of my junior year, or the summer in between my junior year and my senior year, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I played sports my entire life, and I love to watch sports. I love to analyze sports, mainly golf and baseball and ice hockey. And to be honest with you, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was kind of looking online for sport management majors or sport-related majors, if you will. I looked at athletic training, and I looked at things like that, but I didn't really want to get into the medical field. And then I stumbled upon the PGM program here, and I realized, I did a little research into PGM and what it was all about, and I found out that only Cal and Penn State in Pennsylvania offer the program. So decided to make the trip out here. We visited it. I fell in love with this program. I fell in love with the people here, the area itself. I liked the smaller school, and it was a little bit further away from home, but I kind of like that. So that's why I chose the golf industry, and I realized pretty quickly that I wanted to teach. That I wanted to be an instructor. I didn't really want to get into tournament operations or anything like that. To me, that isn't quite as fun as helping somebody get better at the game of golf, because I love the game itself the most.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, when did you figure out your love of teaching? When you were trying to pick tournament ops, at what point did you realize that's it?
I think it stems off of playing for me, because I obviously love to play sports, and golf obviously is my favorite of all of them. So just from learning about the golf swing myself in my own game, I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun, being able to hit the golf ball with a high draw and then try to hit it with a low cut and figure out why that's happening. Mm-hmm. And then if I can figure out why in my own swing, generally that carries over into helping others. And when you're giving a lesson and you actually see the light bulb go off in their head and they get what you're trying to help them to do, that's just like a great feeling. Yeah. So just from hanging around here with my friends and trying to help them out, if they need a little bit of help with their golf game, I just really fell in love with teaching. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of the same feeling when I get when I'm fitting somebody.
Mm-hmm.
When you put them into the right club, it's just they just have a lot of fun. They have more fun. And that's the same kind of feeling I see with you. It's like when you're a teacher and you get them getting on the right track, they have a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's just awesome. that's the whole thing for me.
That's awesome. Now, I heard there's a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but one of our previous guests is Austin Smith.
Correct.
Studio audience member at the moment.
We do.
And are you guys both last names? Is there a relation here? I wasn't sure. No?
No,
Okay.
there is not.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I was like, somebody told me you guys were cousins.
No, we are not related at all.
Okay.
He's just a good friend of mine who I happen to live with. So.
Okay, okay. I wasn't sure. Somebody told me, oh yeah, they're cousins. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I didn't think they were, but then I'm getting all mixed up. Here. Somebody's messing with me. Now, what part of the state are you from? You said it's a further drive than Penn State. What part of the state are you from?
I'm from a small town in Berks County called Hamburg, which from Cal U is about a 4-hour drive.
Oh, wow.
So basically all the way across the state. Probably about an hour and a half from Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
Gives you a little bit better.
Okay.
Better idea.
Are you a big Phillies fan?
No.
Really?
I'm actually not. No, I can't. After being around Philly sports my entire life, I just can't really deal with any of my friends who are Philly fans. So I got away from that early. My family is not Philly sport fans really at all. So I grew up a Yankees fan, actually.
Really? Okay.
And then when I was a kid, because everybody liked the Eagles, and the first football game I ever watched was the Eagles against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I decided to just pick a different team, not knowing any better.
Yeah. Now you're a big Washington fan, I guess.
Yeah, yes. Washington Capitals. Yeah, they're the next closest to me, so I figured I'm not going to like the Flyers, I'll like someone else, and I certainly can't like the Penguins. So.
There you go. That's awesome. Now, one thing that I missed out on in my personal life was being well-rounded in sports. I played soccer when I was younger, but that was pretty much it. Everybody plays now. when I feel like that's one of the most important things you have to have is being well-rounded in sports.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on when you're instructing somebody, making sure that they're well-rounded with different sports?
Well, I would say it's really important because if you grow up playing different sports, for example, baseball versus ice hockey is a lot of balance, a lot of strength, and a lot of stamina, where baseball is a lot of fast-paced action plays at once, but then other times it's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
Just it helps the overall coordination level. So as far as instructing like juniors, my philosophy is to let them play as many sports as they want growing up until they probably reach around age 13 to 14.
Okay.
Right around when they enter high school, then you start to specialize a little bit more. But the more sports you get them into and the more physical activities they do, the more coordinated they become all around and become more well-rounded, like you said, you're obviously looking for. So for me, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love it if they played a sport every single season, 4 sports at a time if they, when they're growing up, if they can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, what sport do you think being an instructor relates mostly to the golf swing? Is it baseball? Is it hockey? I've heard both. It's a lot of mixed reviews. What is your theory on that?
From a pure coordination level, I would say baseball and hitting.
Okay.
But as far as like learning how to efficiently create power, I think ice hockey.
Okay.
Just because you're using your legs a lot to generate power to shoot the puck as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the golf swing with a lot of things that we're seeing nowadays with, for example, the George Gankis moves and things like that, where you're trying to use the ground force reaction to create power. So for me, I think both of those are great sports, but not even necessarily the best. It's a very opinionated question, but I played those, so obviously I would agree that those are good.
Now, let's talk about more of like your career here, Cal.
Correct.
You finished your second internship at Kings Mill Resort.
Correct.
What was the place you went to before, your first internship? Or let's go back to your first jobs in the industry, your first job in the golf industry.
Okay, so my senior year of high school, I got a job at the local public course where we played our high school matches at, which is called Green Acres Golf Course.
Okay.
I just worked on the maintenance crew there, and not a lot of what I did was golf related. I did punch greens and rake bunkers and do stuff like that, but I did a lot of other odd jobs and things of that nature. And then my first internship was actually, I'll call it the premier private club from my area, called Massillon Springs Golf Club. They hosted the Pennsylvania State Amateur, I think, in 2016. Usually like a top 20 in the PA state club. So I just worked outside operations there. And the director of golf there, Eric Schillinger, I would go down and sort of watch him give lessons and help out with women's clinics. And they had a couple junior lessons a week, so I would go and volunteer and help out there. But he went to Jim McLean Golf School, so I did a little bit of presentations and things on that, learning about Jim McLean's philosophy, which I tend to agree with personally. So I did a little report on a couple books I read there. So I did get some teaching experience. It wasn't a lot, but then I went to Kings Mill, obviously, looking for teaching experience. The number one thing I wanted to do was not only watch a great instructor, but I wanted to be able to sort of get my hands dirty and try to do it myself to figure out how to do it. I mean, I was pretty raw at first, I'll be honest with you, and Chris George, the director of instruction there, would say the same thing. But I think over the 3 months down there, I learned a lot. But overall, that's pretty much my experience so far, and I'm looking to expand upon that, continue in the instructional side of the industry this coming summer.
That's awesome. Where are you going this summer for internship?
I'm actually not sure yet. I sent my resume out to the Michael Breed Academy up in New York. Heard that they didn't really have anything. They're a little bit smaller, and they had an intern coming in. So my name's still in there, and I spoke with Mr. John Dunnigan. He has an academy at White Manor Golf Club. So I'm sort of in the mix of trying to figure out where I want to go. Preferably, I'd like to stay a little closer to home than Williamsburg was, which was where Kings Mill was at.
Yeah.
Probably within 2 to 3 hours from home, and White Manor is about an hour and a half from my house. So, I'd be able to live relatively close. And Mr. Dunnigan, did a little research on him. He seems like an awesome instructor, and I would love to be able to work with him.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Now, your experience in the golf industry. With your experience, what is one thing that you've done differently that you think that would help other golf professionals currently?
One thing that I've done differently? I think I put in a little bit more time when I first got here to figure out exactly what I wanted to do.
Okay.
For me, I found it pretty easy to tell what side of the industry I wanted to get into,
Mhm.
and I feel like a lot of people, when they first start out, they sort of search a lot. I think one piece of advice I would give was to do a little bit more research, contact people that are doing something that you're interested in, specialized within the industry, and try to figure out as soon as possible what you want to do, because then you can specialize your internship opportunities to that particular area of the industry, and not just go to 3 different internships doing 3 completely different things. I understand you want to, try to experience everything, but at the same time, I feel like because I know exactly what I want to do,
Yeah.
I'm going to get more experience in that particular area, and that's going to put me ahead of the game. So that's a piece of advice I would give.
Absolutely, yeah, that's awesome. Now, my favorite question I love to ask everybody on the show: what is the funniest or craziest thing you've seen on the golf course or working? I'm sure being on grounds crew, you've seen something crazy.
Yeah. So.
It could have been just here in the facility.
Funniest was when I was working at the course in high school. It was a hot summer day, and I was out. I think I was changing cups that day, and it was like mid-morning, probably around 10 o'clock, but it was really humid. And I saw a couple guys, not your stereotypical, button-up golfers. They had T-shirts on, and actually one of them just had a white tank top on. And the one guy hit his shot almost sideways to the right. He was a right-handed player. And he takes his shirt off on the next shot because it's just so hot out and he's just dripping sweat with a cigarette in his hand, and proceeds to just stripe the next shot to within like 15 feet. He was probably 150 yards out.
Oh my
And I'm betting you he probably couldn't break 100, but that was one of the funnier things that I witnessed happen when I was working at the public course. Yeah, that's probably the funniest
awesome
thing I've seen. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're working on grounds crew, and you see tons of golfers. You see every type of golf swing there is.
Yeah.
Because you're waiting on golfers, you're doing all this other stuff. It's just some of the stuff is just crazy.
It is funny stuff, honestly.
That's awesome. So, Ryan, I appreciate you coming in, talking on the show. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.